Her name was Amelia. I learned that much before my life took an unexpected turn. Just a week ago, I was your typical workaholic dad. I had bills to pay, kids to raise, and dreams that were taking a back seat to my responsibilities. Then she stepped off the plane, her presence shaking the very foundations of my existence. It happened on a routine flight from London to New York. My wife and I decided to treat ourselves to business class for our anniversary. What was supposed to be a luxurious start to the holiday turned into a shocking lesson in life. As I settled into my seat, I couldn't help but steal glances at the woman beside me. There was something about the way she moved, a certain grace in her steps that hinted at a life less ordinary. I couldn't help myself. I watched her every move, wondering about the story behind those captivating eyes and the elegant curve of her neck. The flight took an unexpected turn when turbulence hit. My wife clung to me, her fear palpable, but the woman beside me remained unfazed. She adjusted her seat, pulled out a book, and calmly started reading. It was then that I noticed the tattoo peeking out from under her sleeve, a delicate butterfly against her alabaster skin. Curiosity bubbled within me, a thirst to understand the enigma that was Amelia. But how could I, a married man, cross the boundaries that separated us? As the hours passed, the tension in the cabin eased, and so did my inhibitions. Unable to resist any longer, I turned to her and introduced myself. My wife and I had discussed being open in our relationship, but it was always a topic we put aside, a silent understanding that we both needed to navigate these thoughts alone. As I spoke, I could see a flicker of surprise in Amelia's eyes, followed by a warmth that seemed to welcome my intrusion. We talked about everything and nothing, our conversation drifting like clouds across the vast expanse of the sky. She told me about her travels, her passions, and her dreams, all the while exuding a confidence that was both intriguing and intimidating. Before I knew it, we had become fast friends, sharing stories that painted vivid pictures of our lives and hearts. And yet, despite the easy camaraderie between us, I couldn't shake off this unsettling feeling that I was treading on thin ice. There was something about Amelia, something in the way she looked at me, something in her voice that suggested a depth of emotion that neither of us had fully explored. As the flight approached its end, I found myself torn between two worlds, the familiar comfort of my marriage and the exhilarating uncertainty that Amelia represented. At the airport, as we prepared to part ways, I felt a surge of emotions, all clamoring for attention. I wanted to tell her, to confess the turmoil within me, but I couldn't. The words caught in my throat, trapped by the walls I had built around my heart. With a final wave, I watched her disappear into the bustling crowd, leaving me to pick up the pieces of my shattered composure. Back in the sterile confines of my home, I grappled with the revelation that my life had changed irrevocably. Every stolen glance, every shared laugh, and every intimate word echoed in my mind, intensifying the turmoil within. The compass of my life had shifted, and I realized I wasn't merely a husband leading a monotonous existence. I was a man teetering on the brink of a transformation. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of Amelia became a constant ache in my heart. I tried to focus on my family, to recapture the joy in the mundane, but her absence was a shadow that loomed over me. The thought of her haunted my waking hours and invaded my dreams, turning them into surreal landscapes that mirrored my confused emotions. Then fate intervened, offering me a second chance. A work assignment brought me back to New York City, the place where I had first encountered Amelia. It was a business trip, a chance to reconnect with clients and forge new partnerships. But beneath the surface, it was a pilgrimage to the altar of hope, a desperate prayer that I might find Amelia again. Armed with nothing but my determination and a faded photograph, I set out to find her. I scoured the city, searching for any trace of her, walking the streets we had strolled on together, revisiting the cafe where our paths had crossed. Each step was a gamble, each passing stranger a potential glimpse of my lost love. Hope flickered when I saw a woman who looked like her, only to dash away as I realized it was just a figment of my longing. Days bled into one another and my quest seemed doomed to failure. Just when my resolve was at its breaking point, I saw her standing in front of me, as if the city itself had brought her to me. Time stood still as I took in her appearance. She was even more beautiful than I remembered, her eyes shining with the same enigmatic glow. In that instant, all the suppressed emotions I had wrestled with found their voice. I rushed to her, my heart pounding a wild rhythm against my ribs. "Amelia," I whispered, the name a prayer and a plea all in one. She turned, her eyes widening in recognition. In that one look, I saw a kaleidoscope of emotions mirrored in her own eyes: surprise, shock, and a hint of guardedness. With her hand resting lightly on my arm, she responded softly, "Robert." There was a pause, a pregnant silence that stretched between us, thick with unspoken emotions. It was a moment suspended in time, pregnant with the promise of something more, something that threatened to shatter the fragile equilibrium of my life. Gathering my courage, I impulsively took her hand, my fingers intertwining with hers. Her touch was electric, sending shivers down my spine that had nothing to do with the autumn chill. It was a silent promise, an acknowledgement of the bond that had been forged in the skies above the Atlantic. And then she leaned in, her lips brushing against mine. It was a feather-light touch that sent tremors through my being. The kiss deepened, and in that moment, I knew I had crossed a line, not just in my marriage, but in my life's narrative. This wasn't just a stolen moment. It was a confession, a surrender to the undeniable chemistry that had ignited between us. The following days were a blur of stolen moments and hushed promises. We met in secret, navigating the labyrinth of our desires and the tangled web of our loyalties. With each stolen kiss, my resolve weakened, and I found myself torn between two worlds. On one side, my life with my wife, secure but stagnant. On the other, a future with Amelia, full of passion, but fraught with uncertainty. My heart was a battlefield, the war raging between duty and desire. I loved my wife, or so I told myself. I had spent years building a life with her, raising a family. Yet there were cracks in our foundation, silent fissures that had widened with time. Should I repair them? Or was it selfish to consider leaving when others had it far worse? Amelia, with her enigmatic smile and unwavering gaze, offered me a distraction from the tedium of my everyday life. Our encounters were electric, charged with the thrill of the forbidden and the warmth of genuine affection. Yet I couldn't help but wonder about the life she led, the stories etched in those dark eyes, the secrets hidden beneath her cool exterior. Was I merely infatuated with the idea of Amelia or with the woman herself? The question echoed in my mind, seeking an answer amidst the chaos of my emotions. As the days ticked by, I felt myself drawn deeper into Amelia's orbit. I rationalized my actions, telling myself that a single mistake wouldn't alter my fundamental nature. But was I fooling myself? Was this just another midlife crisis, a detour from a path I was never truly on? The burden of my double life grew heavier, the guilt eating at my conscience. Each secret rendezvous was a tightrope walk, balancing the joy of discovery with the dread of exposure. The fear of losing Amelia spurred me into action. I knew I couldn't keep living this way, torn between two realities. But I wasn't sure which reality I wanted to be a part of.